Hey everybody, we're gonna be talking about some website stuff today. Just give me a hands up or thumbs up in the comments if I got you with me. Let me get to share my screen here. Glad to have you guys with me today. All right, there we go. All right, share my screen. And boom, I think we should be set up now. Awesome, guys. So today what we want to talk about is how to dominate Google with better websites. Some of you know me, some of you that may not, but what we're most known here for at our agency is killer websites, killer SEO, killer Google ads, and all things Google. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about websites. We've done some of our past talks on Google Ads and SEO strategies and some other things, but really websites is kind of the foundation of it all. And not only is it going to be important for your Google strategies, it also helps with a bunch of other things. And we'll talk about how. All right, hang on a second. All right. So before I get into Google, I'm going to talk about something. This thing's called the JAM study. So in 2000, a couple Ivy League schools partnered up and they did this really famous study. And most marketers studied other studies like this, right? So we get big marketing data, big colleges that put together big marketing studies, and then us marketers can use these things and study what's happened, and we can use that to help make better choices for us and our clients. And this one was one of the most profound done in my lifetime, and it was the first of its type, really. And so here's in this graphic, you see two groups of a bunch of jars. So what they did was they took a grocery store, a kind of a country grocery store, and it was a smaller one, and they had jams, literal jams, and the exact count was they had 24 flavors of jams. And I know this seems really random, but what happened was they took this giant display, and it was fairly large. 24 flavors is not a small occupied space, right? Huge marquee of all these flavors. And what they did is for a period of time, they tested how many people that went up to these jams made a decision to purchase a jam. All right. And what they found was that when 24 flavors was there, it was a 4% conversion rate. That means if 100 people walked up to this display, 4 people walked away with any flavor. Doesn't matter which one. They didn't care which one. They just cared if someone bought. Now, here's the theory. There's an emerging area of psychology called choice psychology. And it has a lot to do with marketing, ton to do with marketing. And in fact, I often tell people that I'm not really a marketer. I'm a student of choice psychology. I study what makes people make choices. And by doing that, it makes me inherently good at marketing and sales because I know what makes people make a choice or not make a choice. And so what happens here is these group of college kids, they studied this and they got 4% on this first display, but their theory was that too many choices makes us not want to make any choice. And so what they did in their controlled experiment, this was their A version. Their B version was the second half of the screen. And what they did is they found the 6 most popular flavors. I think it was like strawberry, blueberry, blackberry, whatever, right? It doesn't even matter what they are. They took it and went down to 6. And now the display got smaller because they didn't just take 6 and just make it big. It's actually a smaller marquee. So it's a smaller area, so it had less visual impact. But here's the magic part. It still sold at 31%. 31 over the same time period with the same controlled data, right? Now think about that. And how can we use that in our marketing, right? What this basically summarized is that choice overload paralyzes the consumer. What this means, and we're going to talk about this in web, but this is actually not just a web concept. This is a psychological human concept. Whenever you give people too many choices, too much information, we get paralyzed. It ends up being forms of phobia, stress, and all kinds of other things, and it makes us get frustrated and not want to make a choice. How many here have drop a hand in your in the chat here? If you've opened your refrigerator at some point, looked at all the stuff in your fridge is just full of stuff, and you're trying to figure out what to make for dinner, and you have no idea, you get frustrated, and you go to Uber Eats and you order some delivery because you can't figure out what to make for dinner with a fridge full of food. I know I've done it, and I'm sure that most people here have done it. This manifests in tons of ways. And so not only do I want you to know this because we're going to talk about how it applies to websites, but I also want you to think about this concept in every aspect of your business, right? If I give a paint proposal or paint options and I give somebody 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 different choices or unlimited choices, the chances of them converting with me are really low versus if I just give them a couple choices. So this is literally every type of decision that's made. You can also apply this to, employment and careers and elevation your employees throughout the journey of working with you. If you gave someone infinite options, the chances are they're going to stay put. You give them a path choice of A or B, they'll likely make a choice, right? So this choice overload concept is really huge. But the big thing here is I want you to remember that less choices equals more sales, and more choices equals fewer sales. Now, I gave you this JAM study, and it was the first of its kind. Again, it was done in 2000. You can go to Google and type in JAM study 2000. You'll find the actual studies and a bunch of people talking about it in more detail than I'm going to today. And there's a lot of takeaways in this. The big thing here is that more choices is fewer sales, less choices is more sales. So it's your job as the business owner to take all the information that you have, all your knowledge, all your products, all your services, your team, all your FAQs, all the information, and distill it and organize it so that it's simple and easy for people to understand so that we don't have too much overload. We want to avoid choice overload on your website. Now, again, these concepts will piggyback into every area of your business, and I want you to use them however you can. But I'm here to talk about Google and specifically web. So we're going to talk about how do we apply this concept from the JAM study? How do we apply that and make better websites, right? Well, the first thing that we want to do is we want to come up with what's called an MDA. And any serious marketer knows this term, studies this term, and uses it on a daily basis. But most business owners don't know what this means. An MDA stands for most desired action. In every marketing thing, every marketing campaign, every marketing objective needs to have it. You have to have one. It's just absolutely a mandate. You've got to have one. And so what we want to do here is we want to think about what is the most desired action for the website? What is it trying to do, right? Typically, that's going to be capture leads, almost always. If you had an e-commerce site, it would probably be to sell your products, right? It might be to book an appointment or to start a web chat. It might be a few things, but most often for contractors, it's going to be to get people onto the page and have them fill out a lead form. That's going to be the big thing, right? So how do we do that, right? We're going to break that down into some sub goals, right? We get to our most desired action, but we are going to have a lot of sub goals that we're going to do. And typically these look like education. So we want to, learn, educate, share our knowledge. We typically want to persuade, convince, build trust with our audience. We want to capture. We want to, that goes back to the MDA. That's normally the thing that we want to do most. We're going to capture leads, set appointments, get a phone call, somehow get in touch with these guys. We're typically going to want to build authority, right? It's almost a natural byproduct that when you have a great website, you're going to build authority. You're going to be saying things about yourself, presenting yourself in a professional manner, and that's going to inherently build trust and authority. We also typically need to do some sort of tracking, right? One of the things that great websites need to do is they need to track. They need to have their forms show, form fills show up on drip jobs. Phone calls need to go to your CRM, things like that, right? We need to track things. And we're also going to, by doing this, we're also going to increase sales, right? But the most desired action has to be outlined and all of the sub goals to help support that. So we want to think of it like hierarchically, right? At the top, we have an MDA. What is the one thing that I want to do? And then from there, what are the sub goals that we're going to do? Okay. Now, we get there to do those and help support that. We want to think about what Google does, right? And Google's algorithm uses over 200 factors to rank websites, right? So from an SEO perspective, not talking about paid ads driving to websites, just from an SEO perspective, we're going to be talking about over 200 factors to get a website to be remotely in the top of Google. But the key thing is there's really only a couple that really, really matter. And they're not what most people think. Most people think it's SEO settings and all these technical things. And yes, those things matter. They absolutely do matter. They are on that list of 200. You can't have a site that's not scanned by Google and also rank on Google and get people to the site and then convert them into leads. That won't happen. But the overwhelming majority of where you need to put your focus is actually not on those technical bits. It's mostly on these three things: high quality content, the page experience, which we'll break down in a minute, and links. Now, links, I'm not going to have a time in my spot today to talk about, but I'm just going to quickly define what it is. And then we, at some other point, or you can follow some of my stuff online where we talk about it a little more in detail. Links just means when another website, any website, could be Yelp profile, Better Business Bureau, could be someone else's blog, someone else's page. When they make a link that goes back to our site, that's a link. And in a nutshell, super quick version, Google views that as a vote of confidence. So when sites have more links, they tend to rank higher. When they have less links, they tend to rank lower, right? Now, again, we can't go dive into that one today. We're going to talk about the website components itself. And with that, we're going to talk about page experience and page content. So I'm going to give you a formula of how we operate. This is literally content from our own internal SOPs. Of course, it's a truncated version for this presentation, but it's the exact same thing that we teach our own team on how to build websites. So let's dive into first page experience. All right. So page experience means what we're doing on the page. What that means is when a human goes to a page, what do they see? How do they interact? What do they read? What do they click? What do they scroll? All of this stuff. The page experience means the experience of that in their hand. Think about it like a menu at a restaurant. I open that menu. Is it a bound thing? Is it laminated? Is it cardboard? Is it a QR code I pull up on my phone? All of those things have a different experience and they have different feels and they leave different thoughts and processes in people's mind when they interact with it. And so our page experience is one of those top three things. And we actually argue that it's probably the number one, although they don't specifically state that. Google just tells us that it's in the top few, but they don't actually put them in order. But a site that focuses on a superior user experience can have a visit to lead conversion rate of more than 400% higher than a poorly designed site. What this basically means is good sites are going to rank, bad sites are not going to, right? That's really what that means. So super simple concept there, right? But how do we apply that, right? How do we apply that? I want to talk about this principle here called the Norman Doar principle. So this guy named Don Norman is the author of a book called The Design of Everyday Things. And he's famous, not from this book, but he's famous for products that I have right here, and you probably have as well. The iPhone, the iPad, the iMac. So short history of when Steve Jobs was in Apple and then he got kicked out and then he came back. When he came back that second time, shortly before when he made the iMac and the iPod and later the iPhone and everything, he brought this designer, Don Norman. And Don Norman is a psychologist, right? A design psychologist. And he studies industrial organizational design, which is basically how people interact with things. Industrial organizational psychologists are also responsible for things like remote controls and cockpit of your car, cockpit of planes. They figure out where people innately want to put their hands and interact with objects. And so in this book, he talks about this thing, and up on the screen, you can see it. And for those that are listen only, I'll kind of describe it. Imagine there's a door with a D handle, right? It's got a D handle, and you would grab that handle and you would pull it towards you, right? But you go to pull the door, and as soon as you do, it jiggles. It doesn't move anywhere. And then right above the handle, there has to be a sign that says push. So the interactivity, the object looks like it does one thing, but it doesn't actually do the thing that you think it's going to do. And it requires a sign or corrective instructions to get you to use it the way that you want it to be used, right? And so how many times do we do Norman doors inside of our businesses? How many times do we think that a customer understood everything from a proposal and then they don't? We thought that the payment link was easy to get to and they couldn't find it. We thought that the website was clear and articulated, but they couldn't figure out what our open hours were, right? We do these things all all the time. The concept of the Norman Door principle is absolutely paramount, not just in web, but in your entire business. You need to design processes that are super, super simple, that are really easy to follow, and do exactly what they look like they are going to do, right? All right, hang on just a second. All right, so you guys still with me? Give me a little thumbs up if we're still good. All right, awesome. Awesome, guys. Love it. Okay, cool. All right, let's go. All right, so how do we apply this principle, right? Well, we need good design. And for us, good design means simple, self-evident. Self-evident is where that we got the Norman door concept, right? A Norman door is something that is not self-evident. It looks like it works one way. It needs corrective instructions so you can understand how to actually operate it. We need self-evident designs. They don't need to be complex. They should be simple, self-evident, and very, very consistent, right? Very, very, very consistent. Now, let's talk about some critical areas here. One of the most critical areas of our website is what we call above the fold, right? Above the fold on a website means the area of a website before you scroll. This is really, really the absolute most critical part of your website. In fact, when done right, most people don't scroll. So what happens in this above the fold, right? In this above the fold area, we're going to see typically, possibly a pre-header. It's optional, but it's normally there. That's a little, in this graphic, it's the bar above the logo. And there we might have something like open sense, serving this area, veteran owned, some sort of quality statement, something about our company that we want known that's important. Then we get to the header and navigation section. That header and navigation section is critical because it will contain our brand, logo, our colors, and also the navigation choices. Now, remember a minute ago, I started with that jam study. I did that on purpose. Do you remember that jam study went down to 6 flavors, right? They went from 24 down to 6. There's been a bunch of other studies that show that because of our processing and our short-term memory, that when we present more options than 6 or 7 at the absolute most, we start getting that stress and the ability to make choices goes down. So what we want to do when we're looking at websites is above the fold. We really don't want to have more than 5, 6, 7 choices at all. And one of the biggest mistakes that we see is people putting entirely too many things in that navigation. Now, if you look at the screenshot, you can see if you hover over residential, there's more choices. That's okay because it's a nested choice. I chose to hover over residential. Now I see more choices. And once again, once I'm there, I never want to show more than about 5, 6, or 7, right? So I don't want to click on that menu and see 30 links. That would have the same exact effect as the first one. So when we look at the navigation, we're looking at the logo as 1, residential, commercial, about, there's a get a quote, and then there's a phone. That's 6. That's not accidental. That's incredibly intentful that there's less than 7 choices to click in that navigation. We do not want to cross that threshold. Now, after we go from there, from the user experience, we also need to think about the footer. The footer is at the bottom of the page, and most people aren't going to get all the way down here, but it also serves an SEO purpose too, and even some legal stuff. If you see down at the bottom here, you see privacy policy and terms of service, open hours, address, call, a bunch of quick links, and a bunch of other things. This is helpful for people if they get to the end of the page, they get to see, okay, here's some things I can find my way back to where I need to be. But it also is important from a Google and SEO standpoint. All of these links here are critically important. Privacy policy and terms of service are required for A2P verification when you do phone numbers for things like drip jobs. You also may have, like, you want to have the SEO from your maps and your open hours and all these things that correlate to whatever you have on your Google business profile. This stuff is really, really critical. But most importantly, it serves a human function. If I get down to the end of a page, I can see the high level view of the things in this business. And I want to have this well organized, well constructed so that we can help users make decisions. All right, now let's talk about page content. And up on this graphic, we're going to shift over because experience is one of the most important parts. Content, high quality content is the next. So next thing we're going to do, and we're going to end here, is we're going to talk about what kind of content we need to put on pages. And then I'm going to walk you through what kind of pages your website ultimately should have. All right, so first we're going to talk about page content. Look at this graphic. We look down at the bottom. This is kind of like a what we call a wireframe. It's not an actual design. It's just like big blocks kind of illustrating and labeling the order of operations that we need. Up at the top, headline, bullets, hero image. We saw that in that last thing. And above the fold, big pretty image, real easy to understand headline, call to action, all that stuff. And that's what we call the above the fold, right? We want all of those things above the fold. So those first four, the green, yellow, red, and blue at the top, headline, bullets, hero image, and CTA. CTA stands for call to action, by the way, guys. All of that stuff needs to be above the fold. All of it. We don't want to scroll to get to that. We need it to be above the fold. Now, after that, the rest of the site, we're going to have things like social proof, like reviews and testimonies and links and awards and badges, certifications, things like that. We're also going to want persuasive copy, features, benefits. What do you do? How does it help? And this is really, really critical, guys. I'm going to take a moment to talk about this features and benefits. Most of the time when we talk about things, we tend to talk about ourselves. It's like, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. That's features. My painting company does X, Y, and Z. That's a feature. We need to shift and talk more in benefits. At least do both. A benefit means if I do X, Y, and Z for contractors, what does it do for them, right? What is the impact it actually has on them? And that's important. So you're not just painting homes, you are revolutionizing their home experience. You're protecting their home. You're making it enjoyable to go home. You're doing all of these things. It's not just paint on a wall. And we need to have those conversations that way. So features and benefits. And you can see in this wireframe, we have repeating social proof and repeating CTAs. That'll typically happen, right? We don't want to just put one call to action at the top of the page and make people get to the bottom and have to scroll all the way back up. We want to have CTAs and additional content throughout. So let's talk about some of the things that we actually want to put in there. A couple of graphics up here, but that's not really important. We're going to talk about what's called the ADA principle: attention, interest, desire, action. Attention, interest, desire, action. Now, the ADA principle states that order of operation. We want to first capture someone's attention, and then we want to pique their interest. We want to create desire, and then ask for them to do something. So when we say that above the fold needs to have a hero image, it needs to have this, we need to have these trust and badges, we need to have persuasive copy. Up at the top of the page, we're going to capture attention because of a pretty image. That's what we call it, a hero image. And then we're going to get them to have interest because of the headline. And then as they scroll and they start to read our stuff, our features and benefits and our social proof, will create desire to work with us, right? We're professionalizing ourselves, and that will create desire. And then at some point, you have multiple call to actions. At some point, they will click one of those call to actions and they'll get in touch. Super, super, super important. Well, really what we want to do is we want to have a mix of content. We want to have things like FAQs, frequently asked questions. We want to talk about our processes here. Why choose us? What makes us better, right? What do we do? What services do we do? Where do we service them? What areas do we service? We want to mention all of these things on our pages, especially on our home pages. We also want to make sure that we use good design and breakup. One of the biggest cardinal sins you can do, because I'm asking you to create a lot of content on your sites. Your sites right now probably don't have much content. You need a lot. Our average web page has 2,000 words on it. That's a lot, right? But we do that by breaking it up, and you can see that on the screen. There's different visual areas. You don't want just a giant wall of text. That's no good. That won't get you anywhere. That's not going to serve you anyway. People won't read it. So we want some visual breakup so that we avoid the Norman door concept, right? And that we have people easy to understand what's going on, right? All right, now social proof is another big thing, is that we need to have lots of forms of social proof. The two most common are going to be some form of badges and some form of testimonials, right? We need to have this. So testimonials and or Google reviews is really, really critical. Everyone knows that you want to buy something that someone else has already done. No one wants to take the risk, really, right? No one really wants to be the first person to buy a new product, the first person to hire a brand new painter, the first person to hire an agency that's unproven. We all want to see that someone else has taken that risk and that they've had good results. So whether it's a video testimonial, whether it's before and afters, whether it's a Google reviews, you can see several of these things on the screen. These are huge indicators of success. And that reduces the risk perceived risk from them because in their mind, they're like, hey, well, all these other people have gotten great results. I will too. And that's literally what happens. The story they tell themselves in their mind. I see this, great results. Cool. I feel safe because these guys have a lot of great reviews. And that is huge because it reduces risk, increases professionalism all at the same time. Now, another form of social proof is badges. So you can see here PCA, Google Guaranteed, BBB, 5-star rating. I have people all the time like, I don't really need to pay for BBB. It's another expense. Yeah, you do. You really do. You should have as many badges and certifications as possible. At a very bare minimum, painters, you should be in the PCA, you should have BBB, you should be Google Guaranteed, verified at a very bare minimum. Do these things, these badges are proven to help, right? I don't have time to get into the data behind it, but there's been a lot of studies on it. It helps a ton, right? Any other trust signals, mentions in press, anything else that you got is also great to put on your websites. All right, guys, so that's kind of an overview of what we want to put on the websites. Let's talk about the actual web pages themselves. What kind of pages do we want? And what kind of things do we need to put on these pages, right? What goes where? So we talked about kind of general overview of all the type of content we need. Let's actually give you a blueprint so we talk about what goes where. Homepage. You can't have a website without a homepage. Absolutely, absolutely critical. And again, hero image is going to be on everything. Intro, images, CTA, social proof, why us, about us, process, portfolio, header, footer, all of these things that we just talked about need to be on this page. Your homepage is your most important page. And so it's going to naturally should be one of the longest pages that you have in your entire site. All right. Now, after that, we need to also have about page or pages. We want to think about something that talks about who we are, who we serve. What's our story? Everyone here has a unique story. You have unique services that you do. Even if you do the same interior exterior painting, how you do it and why you do it, it's different. Your story is different. It's unique and people want to know it. People are buying from other people at the end of the day, right? So the more that you can help them get to know you, know your family, know your team, the better. You can see here, this is one of our more recent pages that we just did for Hendrix Painting. It's a really cool family legacy here. And down at the bottom, you can see an old black and white photo of, I believe, a grandfather that started the company still on this page. And it talks about their legacy and how long. Now, even if you just started your business today, you still have a story of how you got there. Tell people. Now, you'll notice some repeats here. We still have a hero image. We still have CTAs, all this kind of stuff. There's some things that are always going to kind of be there. CTAs and hero image, header and footer is always going to be there. But we want to talk about core values, mission, team, awards, maybe some general FAQs about your team, things like that. Make this about you. Tell people. I promise you they want to know. We have a ton of clients that work with us that try to avoid this page. That's not smart. You really want to put a lot of effort in your about page because people ultimately do want to know. Obviously, the bread and butter of any service-based business is going to be the actual service pages themselves, right? What you want to do is you want to have one page for every service that you do. Let's just say you do interior painting, exterior painting, and cabinets. You do not want one service page with a quick paragraph about interior and a quick paragraph about exterior. That's not what you want to do. You want to have dedicated pages for every service you do. Not only does it help humans, which is of course really important, we talked about user experience, but it helps Google understand that you do those things. Our average website will have 30, 40, 50, 60 pages. Most of the time when I talk to people and they're like, oh, my website's underperforming, I look and they have 3 pages, 4 pages, 5 pages. This is why. It's not going to do very well on Google with only a couple pages. You need one page per actual service that you do. And again, we're going to have the same kind of things, features and benefits, hero image, FAQs, screenshot all this stuff. This is kind of a checklist of all the things that you want to put on each of these pages. And of course, you guys get the replay for this as well. And I've also shared this slide deck for all this stuff. So you don't have to try to write this down if you're driving or on the job or anything. You'll be able to get this checklist. Each of these screenshots that has those checklists, I want you to follow those. All right, after the service pages, the next most important page is service areas. This is something that a lot of people don't think about, but it's wildly important. A little bit from the human side, mostly from the SEO side. What you want to do is create an individual page for every side of town that you work. Every major city has sides of town. I live in Jacksonville, Florida. I have Riverside, Jacksonville Beach, Neptune Beach, Mandarin, North Side, West Side, all these sides of towns, right? And it doesn't matter if they're towns or parishes or small cities, whatever. There's going to be things on a Google map when you zoom in. There's going to be names everywhere. Take those, put it in a list, and then make a page for each one. So what we'd see is like in my area, I'd see like best painters, Jacksonville, Florida. Maybe the next one is quality painting in Jacksonville Beach. And we just repeat a unique page for each one of them. And we want to list all the cities. We want to have a map, and then we'll summarize the services on the area page. So we have a service page, one page for every service that we do. And then on the service area page, we just talk about the cities. It's one page for every city. And we have a small thing that summarizes the service on that, which links back to the service pages. They're kind of linking back and forth to each other. And that helps massively with SEO. We also want a portfolio, guys. You can't skip work. You really, really need to do the work part of it. You need to showcase the work. So we talked about like a form of social proof is testimonials and those badges, also the work. The work is wildly important. So if we see and we can showcase finished projects here, then and befores and afters, that again just reduces that risk. No one wants to hire a painter that has no pictures of them painting a house. That's not going to be work very well for you, right? So make sure that you have a good portfolio. Most website builders these days have a little portfolio feature where you can just drop photos in and they'll show them in a grid like this or maybe a carousel. It doesn't really matter exactly how you display it. It just matters that it's there, right? And so we want to show all the different cases. Again, if you use, let's say you do, go back to the example from a minute ago, you do interior painting, exterior painting, and cabinets. What do you think your portfolio needs to contain? Interior painting, exterior painting, right? You need to have photos of everything you do. If you say you do something and don't have photos of it, you should probably try to get a demo client or two to get some photos and then put it up. You need to be able to show what you do. Next thing we have over here is blog. Now, some of you are blogging, some of you aren't. What you need to do here the blogs are really great from a human and SEO standpoint. What you'd want to do is write articles that are helpful that talk about tips, right? So you might write an article about like, should I hire a painter or should I do DIY? And then you can write an article expanding and contrasting between the two options. Maybe you live in a coastal town that gets beat up with salt water and you can say, how often should I repaint my beachfront home in X city? Whatever it is. We want to go to Google and type in questions and see what people search and look at forums, listen to customers. They'll ask questions, note those down, and then write content around what your customers say, what people say online. We want to be helpful and genuinely professional. And the cool thing is, if you blog consistently, I'd suggest once a month to once a week. If you can create a helpful article at that frequency and keep it going, your SEO will dominate. It's one of the things that we do for all of our clients that helps them rank. Another thing you want to do is have jobs, right? So if you're a notable company and you are trying to hire, you might have Indeed ads and all these other things, but you probably should have a jobs page. Even if that apply now button on the page links to your Indeed, that's okay. If you are actively hiring, which you all should be always marketing and should always be hiring, those two things should always be happening. So if that's the case, a jobs page probably makes a whole lot of sense, right? Have a jobs page, talk about the positions that you're offering, the descriptions, company culture, requirements, and then have either a native form on your website where they apply or a link to an external job application site or system or tool that you may be using, right? Really, really important. A contact page / form, super, super, super important. On your contact page, again, you're going to want to have a hero. You need to have a form, right? It could be your Drip Jobs form if you want to. I know Drip Jobs spits out a form and you could put that here. That's one option. You can also make a native form and use Zapier to push your information over to Drip Jobs. That's an option too. But you need to talk about this. What most people miss on this contact page is the customer expectation side. They just put a form, they put a phone number, and that's it. That's not enough. What you need to do is talk about what to expect. What are you going to do when you get in touch? Tell them before they submit. That helps them reassure that you're going to get back to them. So I might say something like, you get in touch with us either by phone or form below. If you fill out the form, one of our representatives will get back with you in the next 24 to 48 business hours, whatever that number is for you. You would say that. So set those expectations so they know what to do. It's also a great place to put your address and phone number and open hours and social links and additional FAQs specific to contacting you. Wildly important there as well. So what will happen is that actually by adding all that information, that contact form, Google actually expects that information on a contact page. So when we see like the maps and the open hours and all that stuff, Google knows that it's, the URL is mydomain.com/contact. And they're actually expecting you to have this kind of information here. not only do they expect it, humans expect it too, right? We don't want to go to a contact page and the quote form doesn't make sense. We create a Norman door where we don't know what to do. We need to have really, really clear instructions, really, really clear user interface, click to call phone number, simple to fill out form, and that's it. Okay. Last thing you need to do is you need to have a thank you page after the form is filled out. This is really, really important, more important than most people think. After we fill out the form, we don't want to, every form option, every form builder out there, including drip jobs, it's going to have two options. Number one, it can just have a little thank you message. The page will stay the same. The form will disappear and say, thank you, we received your form. That's okay. Okay, cool. But second option is you can redirect to a custom thank you page. This is way better, way, 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 way better. It looks more professional. It keeps your trust up. And it also has an added benefit of being digitally trackable. It's very difficult to track conversions on a form when it just does the refresh message. It's much easier to track it with Google ads and Facebook ads and things like that when it redirects to a thank you page. So it's more professional for customers. It's easier to track with digital systems. And so what we want to do is change your form settings so that after it's filled, it goes to a thank you page. And then on that thank you page, we're going to confirm that we got their form filled, thank them, and then again, repeat what to expect. We've already said it on the contact page, but we're going to restate it again, right? Thank them, give some gratitude, give a confirmation, what to expect. And also, if you want them to do something or see something in the meantime, like, hey, we got your form filled, we'll be in touch in 24 hours. By the way, you can check out our blog here with some helpful articles, or visit here to check us out on Instagram. Whatever. You can give them a next action that you want them to do. Might even be watching a video about your process and what makes you unique. It could be a bunch of other things. All right, guys. So as I wrap up here, I want to leave you with this final thought. Web design influences 94% of a business's first impression. What does that mean? We talked about this earlier, and I told you I'd come back to it, and this is me coming back to it. Websites are not just about ranking on Google. In fact, there's another study that I don't have a graphic here for that shows that 90 to 91% of people that are given a referral will look you up on Google before they hire you. Maybe or maybe not before they call you, but definitely before they hire you. So sometime, even if like, let's say you come and paint my house and I give your business card to my next door neighbor. I say, man, I had a great experience with John over here. He did a fantastic job on my house. And then they grab that business card and they call you, right? Well, that's great. You got a referral. Everyone loves referrals, and we know that they close easier than just about any other marketing source. But John over here is going to, this guy, my neighbor, he is going to look you up on Google. He's going to either go directly to your address from the business card, or he's going to search you, and he's going to end up at your website. It's basically the modern day brochure. 20, 30 years ago, we'd give out brochures with every interaction that we have with customers, gave us the story and what we do and how we do it. Today, that is a website. And nearly every person, whether it's an employee, a potential employee, or a potential customer, they're going to look at that. Having a great website even makes your hiring easier because they see that you're a professional. And good employees want to work with good customers, right? Or good painters. So a good painter is going to want to work with a good paint company. A good customer is going to work with a good paint company. So the more you elevate your website presence, the more you professionalize your company in this area, the easier sales become, the easier leads become, and the easier hiring becomes. Now, I'm not going to say that that's all there is to it. I'm not telling you build a website and it's a magic switch. There's still other things to do. And all the other speakers here throughout this event are going to give you a bunch of systems. But I am saying that every measurable aspect of your business gets better with a great website. Absolutely. Now, guys, real quick, I'm going to pass it off to Q&A. I've got a special offer for you guys. I'm not going to take a long time on this. I want to get to Q&As, but if you guys want to work with me, go to searchclickgrow.com/liftoff. Everybody here will get 25% off a website with me and the first 3 months of marketing, 25% off if you decide to work with me. And with that said, guys, I'm all done on my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing and see if we got a couple minutes for Q&A. And that's all I got, guys.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Micah. Man, brother, bringing it. Just a wealth of knowledge as always. So love that. Thank you for that. But yeah,
Thanks.
guys, yeah, if we have any questions, throw them in the chat, throw them in the Q&A, or otherwise just give Micah some love, throw some emojis out there. Did anybody get some value out of this? Man, that was a lot. Any
I know it's a
questions?
ton of information.
It is, yeah, it is. It's all good stuff. Any questions out there? I'll give a minute for for a couple questions, and if not, we'll just keep right on moving because
Yeah, I know
uh,
we got a stack day, and I don't want to take
we
any
got
time.
stack
And
day.
also,
Yeah.
guys, anybody here, you can just look me up on Facebook. Just search for Micah Mclain, and if you have questions offline, you can just follow up with me there. I'm always happy to answer questions for free. I don't charge for consultations or anything. You just if you have any questions, or want to take a look at your website, whatever, happy to do that. Just private message me on Facebook, and we're good to go. Um,
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, we talked about okay. Let's jump. There was I saw one coming through. Where was that? Are microsites any good? Let's start. Let's do that. And then, guys, Michael will hang out for a bit too, and he'll answer some of these questions. But are
for sure.
microsites any good?
Microsites are great for ads. They're not great for SEO. They're really not. So, there was a time, I've been in the SEO game for about 19 years, and there was a time in early in my career where I could make a 1 to 5 page website and rank it in Google within a couple of days, top of Google. And at that point in time, the SEO settings was one of the most important things. The human aspect didn't really matter much. It was all about the SEO settings. And that's why people still believe that's important because it used to be. It's just that was a long time ago. Microsites is a thing that it was great. I could take a business and make 5, 10 domains and just rank them all on Google and dominate. The problem is that Google figured out that people like me did that, and they realized that it wasn't actually good for consumers. Their job is to make Google good for searchers, not for you, not for me. So they flipped that pretty aggressively, about 8 to 10 years ago. And since then, it's all about the customer, the user experience is the absolute number one thing. You've got to make great sites for users. And the reason we put so much content on pages and so many pages in our site, because that's what users actually want. Because it's what users want, that's what Google wants too. Because Google's job is to support users, not you, not me.